Hello and welcome to part one of Silver Creek here in Teton National Park. So part one is blocking. We've covered in everything on the canvas. It's an 14 by 20 canvas. And no, I'm mistaken. It's a 12 by 20 canvas. And so today we really tried to take a stab at where these shapes are going to be in our canvas and get the darks and lights together. The challenge of this painting is we're going to paint this thing in very subdued evening, lack of sun colors. So it's a really big challenge for us. And to learn how to do that, we're going to stick within the same value section. If a value scale is 1 to 10, we're right down there in the darks, like 3, 4, and 5. And so to learn how to do that, this is the one to watch. And that's the big picture for today. Now, as I said, this is part one of a 3-part series, and tomorrow we will get into balance. I like this area of Wyoming so much. I try to get up there at least once a year to paint and to hang out and just be part of that national park. It's really a beautiful place. So, with that, don't forget to get critiques of your work. Get outside and paint, even like I did. I painted twice in the last week, and this is February, so one morning was a little cold. My hands got cold, but get outside and paint. It's really going to improve your overall painting. I'm only one part of your painting skills. Consistently, I provide those references that you can find on George Coll, greatart.com for a small fee. And enough about this. Let's start painting. All right, bye-bye. Good morning and welcome to part one of Silver Creek. I don't know what the name of this creek really is, but I named it after that because of the reflection off the creek, of course. And many of you can probably figure out where this is. It is up in Teton National Park, one of my stomping grounds that I really like to hang out in. The reason I'm painting this painting and doing it with you all, I don't always like to do, light and shadow. I mean, this painting is going to challenge you and me to stay in value. In other words, stay on that darker side and then warm it up on the top as we get up there. But the challenge is going to be to try to tell this story in these darker values and still even have this more interesting and rich than the photographic reference. And if you stay tuned, that's how we're going to do this in part 1, 2, and 3. The paint or the canvas that I'm working on canvas on gator board. Nice stiff stuff, hard to puncture with a knife. Is a 12 by 18. From the overhead you can see I'm working with a 10 or a 12, looks like an 8, a 4, and this is just an old scrubber. So I've got a few other hardware tools, scrape my glass here with something I got from, it's a razor blade scraper, hardware store stuff, and my trusty, looks like a T7 palette knife, good for mixing and also applying paint. I'm going to work with my scrubber, an old worn down Bright. Bright is a style of paintbrush. It's kind of stubby. I'm going to mix a gray up, so I'm going to do some blue, gray. I'm going to throw in a little Viridian on this one. I'm using a limited palette plus 2 more. This is a blue, ultra blue, looks like a basic red. This is the yellow, a Naples, a basic gray. Up here is my Viridian and yellow ochre. Any kind of white and titanium is fine. So I'm using blue, gray, white, and leaning over toward the white a little bit more. And it's kind of a gray-blue, just nice color. I've got my paper towels underneath, easy to get to. I have my turp off to the right. I got a little bit of turp in my bright, and I'm going to ask myself, where can I build a foundation line? Something I can build up and down from. So that's my terminology I use almost every start of a painting. I look for a straight line if I can find one, and I'm going to imagine that there's one right through here at the base of this hill and the base of these trees. Seems to be a pretty good place, and it's a little bit above center. So I'm going to go a little bit above center, draw a straight line, and measure it to see if it's level. How about that? I did it. Huh, not bad. From that line, I can build up and down from. So right now, it's kind of, where am I going to put my shapes? And I'm going to use some line drawing to do that. Well, I know I've got a hill coming in here, so that's easy. I know I got some big trees over here. That's easy, and then a little third here. I've got a hill coming off to the side, coming up here. That's easy. And then I've got some trees. So, no brainer so far. Don't make this complicated. Right now, I'm just mapping out my shapes. Then there's the Tetons here in the background. And those are my Teton shapes. I continually step back and take a look to make sure I'm in the right neighborhood and doing the right thing. Now we have this big bush coming in here, so we have a bush that starts right up here, goes down here, and this is bush. And from there, we have a dark coming across. See that dark? Kind of starts here, goes across. That's a dark. And then there is a bank. And that's my bank. Right there. That's bush, that's bank. Uh-oh, I hit my camera, sorry. Kind of tight in here. I have bush here. I have another bush here. I have a bank coming in, or a light coming in here. So I have darks coming clear down to there. And then I have another bush here that canopies out here. And then I have actually he comes up pretty high. These come up a little higher. And then I have another bush that's a little lower that goes off here. Alrighty, so we're putting this jigsaw puzzle together, and then from over here These darks, I have a kind of a bank coming off this way. So this is my bank here. Now it's time to refine this. This is a very important time to step back and say, my mountain's too high, are they too low? And I think my mountains are a little too high. So I'm just going to trace them and bring them down a little bit. Pretty simple. So I'm going to go with the lower line and erase the upper line by dipping my paper towel in my turp and going up here and just rubbing my paper towel on the area I want to erase. And reinforce my Once you've been to the Tetons, you always kind of remember the shape of these mountains, and you can recognize them just about anywhere you see them in a photograph. You say, that's the Tetons. Well, as I said, the challenge is going to be keeping these subdued, darker colors in this area. All right, I said I needed to now refine some of these and change shapes and so forth if I have mistakes. Right here, my trees start a little lower and go a little higher, like that. So they kind of angle in. And we can fill these guys out a little bit, so they're going to be now you see why this is called a scrubber. Look, it's barely a brush anymore. I need to now determine this reflective lake or stream. And this is the other side right here. That's the line I put in right there. So far, so good. I'm not freaking out. You should not be either. Now, if I don't back up and knock over my tray of paints back there, I'll be fine. You know, I think it's time for me to change to a bigger brush. So I'm going to start here with my get a 10 or a 12 in your hand, and let's make some darks. Let's go back to blue, gray, throw some red in there, blue, blue, red, gray. Throw some Viridian in there now. So it was a combination between blue, red, white, and a little bit of Viridian. Don't know if I made enough of it. Darn it, it's a beautiful mixture. Okay, I put a little bit of terp in my number 10 for two reasons. One, I cleaned it last week in Murphy's oil, so I wanted to get the Murphy's out, and then get a little bit of slop in here so I can at least get some mileage out of it. You can see I'm using two sides of the brush. One's the flat, and then the sides. You can see how I can do that to bring out these shapes. So Jan, don't let me forget today when I talk to you and critique that I need to get your address so I can send this book to you. All right, moving
Looks good, George.
moving along here. And I might have enough of this stuff to get through here. So that number 10, it was a 10, did me a very efficient and pretty quick job. If you're down there using a 2 or a 4, it's going to take a lot longer to get this done. And this is kind of a lay-in stage. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think what you would call my style of teaching and my style of painting is impressionistic realism. So right now we're definitely on the impressionistic side. We'll do that realism stuff later. And I made a mistake on this one. I think there's a tree that actually comes forward. All right, I'm going to make another darker dark in these bushes. So I'm going to go back to blue, red, blue, red, and that's all I used. Now, if you add some white to it, it makes kind of a dull purple. And we will use that probably in the bushes later. But let's get those big darks in right in here. So I'm getting some terp in there too. You can hear me tap the bowl here. I really like these flats that I'm using. I'm trying to look at the reference now and see where these darks, how far they come down and the stories they tell. Kind of tilt this way a little bit. That's what that angle is. And this one comes way down in a spot. And if you're not exact to the photograph, don't freak out. Got plenty of room, if it is not working for you, to get these things straight later. And I'm going to come in here trying to figure out if these are far enough down, and they are. I think they're right. They come in about right in here. This one's a little higher. This one is a little lower. So we'll lower our bank there a little bit. And we have some darks coming in here from the silver water thing. And we have some darks coming across right in here. And we have some sage areas coming up in here, and some darks running across here. Looks like blue sage, particularly that particular coloring in the morning. These are willows. Back here is sage. Willows, sage, and sage in the foreground. Alrighty, we're going to make some sort of a lighter color in these areas here. So let's see if we can work with what we have. Don't have much of it. But I'm going to make a yellow ochre blue. And now I'm going to add some white to it. And I think I'm going to need more blue. Oh, that's coming out nice. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Alrighty. So that yellow ochre and blue with titanium white is going to be our color that we're going to be in here next with. So let me see what I can do with that. Add a little bit more white to it. I had some dirty white left over from my plein air painting this weekend, and I just threw it on there. You know, this stage of the painting, it's not like I need a lot of purity. Oh, that is a beautiful color. My wife is leaving. I may have to open the gate for the llamas when she leaves. I have a couple geriatric pack llamas that used to pack my stuff up into the high country. And now they're enjoying their retirement. Now I know you see different colors there, blues and stuff, but let me check with her, see what she's doing. 1 second. Yeah. She's going to let the llamas out. That's nice. Well, already, if you look at your values, you can see when I stood back at the end of my studio here, I can see darks, and you can see a value change here, which is significant enough to do what it needs to do. And I'm going to bring in a few of these strokes in here. And I need probably a dark running off the side here. And that's what that is. This is real thin right here. And I'm going to do some more blue and some more yellow ochre and some white. Makes kind of a gray green. It's very nice. Now I know there's some blue in there, so I'm going to add more blue in the, I'm talking about this area with sage back here, and there's sage here. So I'm going to add some more white and blue to that mixture. And I'm going to put some of that, so it's more white. I'm going to have to get some serious white in here. That value was too dark right here. So, back to the drawing board. Here we go. Mucha better, a mo better. We have a restaurant here in Loveland called Mo Better Gumbo. Pretty popular place. Now, up here, I'm going to thin the top of these bushes with my rag, and you can see how that softens everything too. And I'm going to get more silvery blue up here, so I'm adding more white. I'm going to add some gray to it. And more blue. More gray. Dang. Come on, that blue was so strong. And more white again. Now we're getting more subdued. Let me get some darks in the foreground. Red, blue, red, blue, viridian, blue, red, a little bit of viridian. And I'm going to have a few flecks of dark in here. Clean my brush. And we're going to get some of this silvery blue stuff here. So stop thinking I've got to paint sage, just blob it in the right areas. I've got to get the bottom of my canvas done. Alrighty. I'm going to use some of this silver and lighten it up with more white. And get some of that back in here. Not working so much, so I'm going to get it on my knife. And now you can see it. And I applied it with my knife. Good. That worked. I have to get some dark in there later. Well, I've got some dark. Here's how I can do it. I put some dark on my knife. My screen's in the way, so it's not going to be perfect. But that gets you some darks in there. Not such a good job. To work on that later. All right, let's work on this hill right here. And let's go back to yellow ochre, blue. I'm mixing it right into the silver. And I'm going to make it a little darker than the foreground because it's a vertical. And let's see if I accomplish that. I added just a little bit of viridian at the very end. I know there's trees and stuff in there, but I'm just going to go for one solid color. I think I did it. It's darker than that, than this area where the sage is. And I'm going to get some light right underneath there over, since I have a little bit left here. That's that sage color, the silver color. Put that in there. It's a little too thick for this stage, so I'll pick some up with the brush. And voila, we got what we need. All right, I'm checking my time, and we've got about 10 minutes left. I think that'll be plenty enough time to do what we need to do next, which is get up in the mountains and the sky. Okay, here we go. So let's get some ultra blue and some white. And a little bit of gray. And that looks like a good color for this mountain over here. Trying to get some of this green out of my brush. Still using this number 10. I didn't get all the green out, but it'll work. Now, a lot of you people that like detail, you're screaming like, where are the snow holes? And I'll get that in later. That's the detail. Now we need to go lighter, so we're going to add more white, which I'm out of, so I have to squeeze some out. Just about done with this tube. Since that's my contaminated pile, I'll make a clean pile right here. And now I've got paint all over my gloves. And now let's add some, let's go to just the blue pile and the white, not the gray. And let's check this to see if it is going to be the right value. That is going to work. I'm going to use this on the lower sections. And I'm going to add more white yet again as we go up. I'm going to add a touch of gray. And you can see now, when you look at the reference, you have this lighter blue-gray up on top. I've got a lot of turpin and I'm hoping it dries a little bit. I can put my snow stuff on top. I did a smaller version of this painting on 9x12. Not of this, it was a little farther back, but similar in value, because I took it at the same time I took this picture in reference. Now you should see the difference between your richer blue and your gray, blue, and white in the background. Lost my image. You can find this image at georgecoll.greatart.com and download it for a minimal fee. All right, I'm going to pick this color up and move it over. I'm running pretty close on time here. Let me look. I have time. And I'm going to change brushes because I'm going to go to a warm this one's pretty contaminated, and I could get it clean, but it's going to take a while, so I'm going to switch over to another 9 or 10. I think I'll just use this 8 that I got. This is a worn out 8. And I'm going to make some white and just a little bit of Naples. A little bit of Naples, a lot of white. And you have a very subtle light Naples and white. And I'm just getting some big swipes in here, and then I'll go in and get more detailed around these mountains in 1 second. But I'm getting the big areas while I have big piles of paint. And now I'll get into a little bit more detail here. And if you contaminate your brush, don't worry about it. You can just clean it up, just wipe it like that, and get the contamination out. And I made a mistake here on the drawing, so let me need another little area right in here. And that contaminated the brush, that's for sure. And should have checked that. Oop, too dark. And go back, get some white in it, there, sucker. Now it's looking like the Tetons. And that should about do it, but since I've got some of this yellow left over, let's get her in here. I'm going to get, not going to do it, let's get a really light blue and white in here. And this is the reflection of the sky. What I like about this is this side of the bank is just so riddled with the little shapes. And I won't probably be able to do it in this session, but hope I have some time to do it in the following sessions. And that brings us to a close, and I'm right up to deadline on this thing. And that is the block-in. Of course, there's these little sky holes. Off camera, I'm going to be playing with those and filling them in with surrounding paint colors. And that's what I'm going to do off camera to get some of these peekaboo things coming through here. So if you toned your canvas before you even started this painting, you wouldn't be dealing with this, which would be a good idea. Okay, that brings us to a close of part 1 of Silver Creek, and we will start again on part 2 tomorrow on balance, bringing things up, down, adding some worms on top of these bushes, and a variety of other things to make this painting look balanced. All right, with that, we're going to bring this session to a close, and thank you so very, very much. Bye-bye.